This segment sponsored by Foster Financial. It is time for Wealth Wednesday, giving you tangible financial advice to help you plan for retirement. And joining me today is Caleb Doane, the Vice President of Foster Financial. Good morning, Caleb.
Good morning.
How's it going?
It's going well. A little chilly outside.
I know. I was about to say, are you staying warm?
Yeah, trying to.
I know that wind chill is crazy, but we're inside and warm and ready to talk about this year. Okay, so much is happening. 2024 is going to be so busy, and one of the things is the elections.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I know, get ready for all of the campaign commercials and all of that stuff to start hitting everyone. I grew up in Michigan, which I think is even more of a swing state, I'd say. So we just got inundated with all of those every single election year, it seems. So
it does. It feels like that. And the craziest thing is that it really does affect every aspect of our lives for this year, including our finances, including our retirement. So what are you going to share with us today?
Yeah, I know one of the big questions that we get is, how is this presidential election or election year going to impact the stock market? And it's an important thing to think about. I think, a lot of times people get a little worried about what's going to happen with the elections, and, they have the bulk of their assets invested in the stock market, and there is a reaction there. So over the course of the last, 50 years, on average, the stock market, the S&P 500 specifically, has gone up, between 8 and 10% on average. In election years, it's a little bit less. It's about 7% that it's gone up on average. Years before election years, it actually increases a little bit more. So maybe it's just kind of a pullback from that. But generally speaking, I would say, just speaking with investors in the industry, what I have found is that a lot of times people maybe overestimate what the election, the kind of impact that the election is going to have on the stock market. And so, we'll get people on both sides of the aisle that are like, hey, my person didn't win, that I voted for. Do I need to pull all of my money out of the stock market? And of course, everyone's situation is different, but generally speaking, I would say that's probably an overreaction or overcorrection to what is happening.
Yes, because I'm sure people are wondering, is this even a good year to start making changes? Should they take more risks? Should they be more safe? Should they diversify their portfolio and really just try to get ahead of it? So what would you recommend? Is it really different for each person, or is it different depending on the election year?
Yeah, everything kind of has to be considered, a person's individual situation, and then of course kind of the macro environment with what's going on, which certainly includes the election. But I'd say the election is just one of a lot of factors that people need to consider. So I mean, the election has an impact on stock markets. But again, people maybe overestimate what that, the impact that has, and maybe they underestimate some other factors that have a pretty big impact too, like interest rates, Fed policy, monetary policy, fiscal policy with the government. So there's a lot of pieces that people need to consider. But when they're thinking about, maybe taking another look at the risk in their accounts, I think now is a great time to do that because, we're at the beginning of the new year, stock market is really close to all-time highs. It can be good to take a look and maybe rebalance or see if your circumstances has changed, does it make sense to change your risk?
Yes, I mean, and really not to mention the fact that we're dealing with an inflation and, so much is changing and it seems to be getting worse and, things are continually rising. And I think that that really impacts the way people consider their portfolios this year. So do you feel that January is the number one month that people really make changes, or is it kind of mid-year after they start to assess the year?
I think January is a lot of times where people will make the decision that, hey, I need to get this done this year. But maybe they don't start doing it for a couple months in, in the spring or something like that. So, but yeah, like you said, inflation is really high, and that's going to be on a lot of people's minds when they're voting later this year. So the thing that's kind of interesting is that the stock market actually really likes when there's gridlock in the U.S. government. So, of course, we have checks and balances in the government. We have the executive branch. We have the legislative branch. one of the things that the stock market really likes is when the executive branch is one party and the legislative branch is a different party.
Yeah.
Because typically what that means is that nothing's getting through. You know, Republicans could pass something in Congress and it'll probably get vetoed when it goes to the executive branch,
Yes.
or vice versa. And a lot of times the stock market doesn't mind that because it knows that there's not going to be any policies that are sweeping broad changes to the industry that are going to negatively impact the market. So
Yeah.
sometimes keeping status quo when it comes to policies, the market really likes it.
So Caleb, what would be your top tangible tips right now as people are really looking into their assets, really looking into their retirement accounts and learning what they can take advantage of at this point before things start to change this year?
Yeah. Top couple tips. I think one, I would say, keep in mind that when you're investing in the stock market, you need to have a long-term time horizon on it. So don't get too caught up into short-term fluctuations. The stock market did really good towards the end of 2023. It bumped up a lot. People can kind of be on a high from that and get really excited about it. Or we can be going into an election year and people are super worried and want to pull money out.
Yeah.
I would say keep a little bit more of a level head is typically beneficial. Understand that your money is supposed to be invested kind of for a long time horizon. There's going to be fluctuations within there.
Right.
But if you're invested to an appropriate risk level, that's typically the best policy. And that would be kind of the second tip that I would say is just really make sure you're invested appropriately for the risk that you want to take.
Yeah.
A lot of times when people are younger and they have an even longer time horizon to when they would need to pull money out, we can be a little bit more growth oriented. If you're in retirement and pulling money out, maybe we need to be a little bit more conservative.
Yes, absolutely. And that's where speaking to a financial advisor comes in, because you can kind of take a deeper look at each person's individual case and see what they need to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Caleb.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. And as you guys know, Foster Financial is here to help you navigate the current market with holistic financial advice. So you can give them a call to schedule your complimentary consultation, and we'll be right back. This segment sponsored by Foster Financial.